Let's go over to Norman Smith, our assistant political editor, who's in central lobby for us now. Norman.
Rita, thanks very much. Well, here it is. Here's Mrs May's plan for leaving the EU, 75 pages. In truth, we don't learn a vast amount that is new. It's mainly a restatement of what Mrs May has already told us. A couple of things that I picked out which I thought were interesting is that, one, we will get an immigration bill, and the expectation is that will have to be introduced before Brexit to put in place the changes to freedom of movement. And one imagines that has the potential to be a political nightmare for Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party. The other thing which I thought was interesting in here is the government seems to moot the idea of special deals to ensure continued single market rules for certain key sectors of the British economy. It suggests, for example, car manufacturing, chemical exports, and of course the city. Well, joining me is the Conservative MP Dominic Raab, a prominent supporter of Brexit. I mean, before we get into the white paper, are you surprised of two things: that Mrs May was so reluctant to have a vote in the Commons and so reluctant, it seems, to produce this paper?
Well, I think she's quite a pragmatic and cautious and careful Prime Minister and leader. But the truth is, we've had three key developments which are all positive for this country. We've got the white paper, which actually on the cross-party Brexit committee, people like me who have campaigned for leave also thought was a good idea, and the government's shown some flexibility around that. And you've got all the detail, this vision of a self-governing democracy for Britain, a strong European neighbour but also global leader for free trade. Now in Whitehall speak for everyone to see, 75 pages of it. At the same time, as you know, Commons has backed the triggering of Article 50 to start the Brexit negotiations by far greater majority than anyone expected, by 5-1. 3/4 of Labour MPs supporting us, just one Conservative MP rebelling. And the Liberal Democrats, supposedly the totem for the anti-Brexit campaign, split themselves. And then thirdly, quietly, earlier this afternoon, we had the Bank of England put out its latest forecast for growth in 2017. That is fascinating. They've upgraded their forecast of growth from 1.4% to 2%. That would lead us to be one of the fastest growing economies, not just in 2016, which defied the gloomy pessimists, but also in 2017 as we get into these negotiations. I think the time is coming very rapidly where we'll put aside some of this haggling here and we can go into these Brexit negotiations with real self-confidence, ambition, and looking for that win-win, a deal that's good for Britain, but also good for our European friends.
Well, if you're going to do that, you're certainly going to need more detail, because going through the white paper, there doesn't seem to be any clarity on a whole load of key issues. Transitional arrangements, the details of immigration on the Northern Ireland border. It simply says we hope for a practical solution. I mean, they are going to have to nail down some specific ideas, and very soon, because the negotiations will begin in the next few months.
Well, that's true, but first of all, Theresa May has always said she's not going to display all the detail of her cards before we begin the Brexit poker, if you like. But also, it's obvious this is a two-way negotiation. What we set out is the objectives. It's obvious. I mean, it's daft for anyone on the Labour side or anyone else to say, well, you don't know what the result is. That's why you have a negotiation. But what we do know is that the public, according to a YouGov poll, immediately after the Lancaster House speech, back this vision for post-Brexit Britain by 3-1. And I think not only are the political tectonic plates shifting, but the mood in the country now is getting behind this, whether people voted leave or remain. And that's the unity of purpose we now need.
Okay, Dominic Raab, thanks very much for your time. Rita, it's worth saying, of course, that although Mrs May won a stonking Commons majority last night, I suspect a lot of the attention now is going to move across the water to Brussels, where there are already signs of the sort of hard deal some EU leaders want to strike. We heard from our former man in Brussels yesterday, Sir Ivan Rogers, saying they want to hit us with a bill for up to £60 billion for leaving the EU. So some tough times ahead, it seems, in Brussels.
Norman, thank you.